Thank you so much. I am honored to be here to speak to you today. And anytime I get to speak on gratitude, it really energizes me. And I love connecting with the audience here. So I'm actually going to come down here because I don't like being up on a podium. So I hope you don't mind that I can come down to your level. Thank you to Val and Callie for inviting me to speak. Special thanks to Angie over here because she's the one that suggested I apply to speak today. So first, I also want to acknowledge you because you rock. And if nobody has told you that, I'm here to tell you and acknowledge you, not only for being here today for my talk and all the other talks over the past couple of days, but really to acknowledge the work that you're doing. It's important work, and I want you to know that. You're helping your community and your state be safer, and that's important to really realize that, and I know sometimes we lose sight of that. Now, you may be wondering why I'm holding a plastic bottle filled with what? Filled with trash. Well, I want you to rewind with me at the beginning of 2014. I can't believe that was about 6 years ago. And I was struggling because I wanted to make more of an impact in my life around the world. And I started to research ways that I could make more of an impact. What could I do to help other people more than I was currently doing? And I did a little bit of research, and I knew I wanted to go to a country in Central America to work with kids. But that's all I knew when I started my research. And so I dug in a little bit more, and I found an organization called Hug It Forward. Now, Hug It Forward builds schools, classrooms, out of plastic bottles, just like this one, filled with trash. It's pretty remarkable what they do. You see, in Guatemala, they have not only an educational problem, they have an environmental problem too. There's a lot of trash laying around in a lot of the poorer communities there. And what they do is they will partner with a community. So if a community wants a new school built, they'll use Hug It Forward, and they'll partner together. And so what Hug It Forward does is they empower the community to go out and really take charge of the initiative. And so the community will collect about 10,000 of these plastic bottles, all shapes and sizes, right? And then they fill up the plastic bottles with trash, as much trash as they can get in one bottle, until it becomes solid like a brick. And they call these eco bricks. And so what they'll do is they'll put up chicken wire, then they'll insert these eco bricks into the chicken wire, and then they'll put cement over the bottles and then paint it. And voila, you have a new classroom. So I decided I wanted to take a trip to Guatemala and get my hands dirty and participate in a school build. And so that's what I did in July of 2014. Now, I had never been to a third world country before, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to see. And I just remember distinctly, it was the first day, and I was sitting on a bus going from our hotel to the site where we were going to be building the school. And I was in the bus with about 25 other volunteers who I had just met the day before, so I didn't go to Guatemala knowing anybody. And it was a bumpy bus ride. As you can imagine, we're in a third world country. The roads are horrible, bumpy, rocky, dirt roads. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I about to witness? What have I gotten myself into? I didn't really know what to expect. It was that unknown, right? And when the bus pulled up to the school site, I looked out the window, and what I saw really took me by surprise. And as I stepped off the bus, I could see that the entire community had come out to greet us, to greet the volunteers. And they formed two lines, and this is the actual picture that I took. They formed two lines from the bus extending about 100 yards to where we were going to be building the school. And they were waving the American flag. They were playing rock music. They were giving us hugs. We walked in between the lines of people like we were on the red carpet. You know, we just had the Oscars 2 days ago. I really felt like a celebrity, and that's how they treated us. They gave us hugs, said buenos dias, good morning. And as I look back onto this moment, this was a defining moment in my life. As I look back on this, I was appreciative of it, but it got me thinking, how come I don't feel like this in my own community? I had to go all the way to a third world country to feel love, to feel appreciated, to feel kindness. And it got me thinking, we don't really have that here. I was living in Denver at the time, and I certainly have never gotten that type of welcome in my own community. Fast forward a couple years after that, my friend Lori put together a Spread the Love Challenge. 28 straight days in February, she challenged us to do an act of kindness. And she told us the guidelines every day, what the act was going to be. And I remember distinctly on this day, and Lori lives in Denver as well, we went out together to downtown Denver in a neighborhood called Union Station, and the challenge was to hand roses to strangers. I mean, that takes guts to go up to a stranger and hand roses. And I didn't know what to expect here. More often than not, our kindness was rejected. People tried to avoid to make eye contact with us. We would smile at them, and they wouldn't smile back. Many times we tried to hand the rose, and they said, no, we don't want it. And I thought, that's strange. And again, I compared that with Guatemala. Why was everybody so welcoming to kindness there? And here in my own local city, we don't feel that same way. This also reminds me of my friend Houston Kraft. So Houston travels all over the country and talks to kids in schools. And his talk is on his shirt. Make kindness normal. Imagine that. He has to give a talk that's asking us to make kindness normal. Because somewhere along the way, I guess kindness isn't as normal as maybe we would like. We would like to feel the welcoming love that I felt in Guatemala, but we don't often see that. So what's the difference between the community in Guatemala and some of the communities that we experience at home? Well, I think one thing is technology. A lot of our interaction is done in a way that's not very engaging. We can connect with people through screens, right? But we don't really get to know them. Many times we're more interested in what's going on our screen than the people right in front of us. We've probably all been at a restaurant where we see people communicating over their phone. They're afraid what they're going to miss out on, instead of having a meaningful conversation with the person that they're having the meal with. So we're literally connected probably to our devices 24/7, whether it's our phone, our tablets, our computers. Many of us, and I'm guilty of it, our phones are next to us while we're sleeping. It might be the first thing we grab when we wake up instead of talking to somebody. And so really, we are losing out on the art of meaningful connections, and this affects the way we treat people. And yes, we have more than ever ways to connect with people, right? There's no disputing that. We can send messages through text and computers, through email, through DMs, right? But being connected does not mean we have a strong connection with people. So where does gratitude come into all of this? Well, because we're less connected with people, right? We're disconnected, we're divided. There's lots of complaining online, right? Over social media, people take it upon themselves to express their opinions, negative or positive. People like to argue and rant over on social media. To me, that doesn't feel like kindness. It doesn't feel like we want to live in a world where there's a lot of love. We're just too busy typing away on our screens. Well, when you have gratitude in your life, it leads to more positivity. It leads to more optimism. It leads to more happiness. The research shows that. So with gratitude, if you can bring it into your life, both personally and professionally, We're not going to be divided anymore. We're going to be more unified, and we're going to be more connected. So back to my trip to Guatemala, one thing that I really noticed there, and I kind of went into the trip expecting this, they had very little. They didn't have the smartphones that we have. They didn't have internet or TV. Sometimes the families were as many as 10 to 12 people living in a single room that was a very rundown. Their classrooms, which was what we were there helping with, were also run down. Grades 1 through 6 were in a cramped one-room classroom, not ideal learning conditions. But what do you think they did have? They had smiles, and they had each other, and they had appreciation and kindness. And it's about how you choose to live your life. And they didn't care about all the things that we take for granted, like phones, television, internet, computers. They don't care about that stuff. They cared about the things that really mattered most, and a large portion of that were just each other. So today we're going to be talking about gratitude and how you can live in more gratitude both personally and how you can apply that in a professional setting. Why do we need to talk about gratitude starting with yourself first? The perfect analogy is a flight attendant on an airplane, which I just flew here yesterday from Knoxville, so I got this speech. And the flight attendant, when they're giving the safety instructions, they say, in the event of an emergency, if the oxygen mask comes down, please place it over yourself first before you help others, right? You got to take care of yourself first and make sure that you're feeling happy and that you're feeling optimistic and positive, because if you're feeling anxious and depressed and sad, you can't really be expected to spread it to other people. So you need to live in gratitude first. Now, I come from a fitness background, and it's the exact same thing. Many people from a fitness background that I've worked with, many people that I've worked with in the fitness industry are moms, nurses, a lot of women who nobly take care of other people first, and they put themselves last. And when you do that, you don't have time to do what's important. Things like working out, things like meal prepping. That goes by the wayside because a lot of people spend most of their free time helping others, which is great, but you can't do that to your best effort if you're not feeling well. And so gratitude needs to start within first. How many of you have ever kept a gratitude journal? Like, you have a journal like this, and you open it up and you write down what you're grateful for. If you've done that, just raise your hand if you've done that. Great, a few of you. How many of you have ever written in your gratitude journal for 30 consecutive days? And it's really become a habit, a few of you. Okay, great. Gratitude journaling is a great place to start when it comes to living in gratitude. For a lot of people, it's a challenge to keep it a habit. And I think a couple of reasons. One, we're kind of just going through the motions, right? So sometimes we have a gratitude journal, and it prompts us, what are 3 things that you're grateful for today? You might just say things like, my spouse, my health, my job. And then you turn the page the next morning. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? My dog, my bed, my house. All right. Well, at least you're making an effort, but it's not really living in gratitude. It doesn't really affect you. And I think that's the second main reason we don't keep at it sometimes, is because we want that instantaneous result, right? Like, hey, I kept my gratitude journal for 3 days. How come I'm not happier? How come good things aren't happening to me? Same thing with fitness. Hey, I worked out 3 days and I ate salads. How come I haven't lost weight yet? It takes really consistent effort when it comes to living in gratitude, no matter how you choose to do it. It takes consistent effort for you to start cultivating that mindset of gratitude and seeing results. And so what we're going to talk about next is 4 ways to cultivate the habit of gratitude. And these aren't the only 4 ways that you can do that, but these are 4 ways that I've learned that work really, really well. And my suggestion is you don't try to do all 4 if you're new to gratitude. Maybe pick one and start there and really aim at being consistent. The first way to live in more gratitude is to be specific with your gratitude. So let's say we decided to write in our gratitude journal. Well, it's better to write more than just one word, right? I'm grateful for my dog, or I'm grateful for my spouse. Why are you grateful for them? Maybe you are married and you have a wife or a husband, and you're grateful for some special qualities that they have. Maybe they make you laugh. Maybe when you come home after a bad day at work, they listen to you. You feel heard. Maybe they spend quality time with you. Maybe if you have stress in your shoulders, they give you a shoulder rub. Think about the things, the reasons why you're grateful for whatever you're going to write down, and that makes it more meaningful. That way, if you do write down your spouse, you start to look at them a little bit differently. Like, yeah, I am grateful for them. I sometimes take them for granted, but it feels good to write down why you're grateful for something. And you start to get in that mindset of, okay, I actually do have it pretty good in my life. The second example of how to live in more gratitude and cultivating that mindset is to flip the gratitude switch. Now, I didn't coin this term. A friend of mine, Kevin Clayson, wrote a book called Flipping the Gratitude Switch. So Kevin talks about finding the awesome in every situation. So we probably all have parts of our day where something doesn't go perfectly, right? And so one universal example I like to talk about is being stuck in traffic. So suppose we're driving to work, we hit a traffic jam, and we're going to be late to work. What are your first thoughts? Your first thoughts are probably anger, frustration, anxiety because you might be late and you don't want to get in trouble. Well, instead of thinking of those negative thoughts, and the key to realize here is you can't control the traffic, so you can't snap your fingers and the traffic just gets out of your way, right? But what you can control is how you react to a negative situation. And that's what Kevin is talking about, finding the awesome in it. So let's step back and think about what could be the awesome in getting stuck in traffic on your way to work. Well, you're in a car, right? Not everybody has a car. Some people have to walk everywhere. Some people take public transportation. Be grateful that you have a mode of transportation that allows you to get around anytime and anywhere that you want. Wait, you're driving to your job. You have a job. Not everybody has a job. Some people are unemployed. Some people are homeless. Your job may provide financial security so you can feed yourself and your family. And you have a roof over your head. Maybe in the passenger seat is your significant other. And that extra 10 minutes in the car allows you to have a meaningful conversation, or you just joke around, or you play a game. Maybe you listen to a personal development podcast and you turn your car into a classroom. So that's what it means to flip the gratitude switch. So when you have some negative thoughts about a situation, kind of pause, take a step back, and find the awesome in that situation. All right, the kick-ass jar. So that's the third way to live in more gratitude. So you can call it a kick-ass jar, you can call it a gratitude jar, but I like kick-ass jar, and I didn't coin this term either. This was my friend. See, I take the best parts of everybody I learned from, and then I can present on it. So Yasmin coined this, or maybe he got it from somewhere, and I didn't know about it. But he talks about the kick-ass jar. So the kick-ass jar is really a wins jar. So you take a jar, and then you take some slips of paper, and we all have wins during our day, and we usually forget to celebrate them. But it's important to celebrate our wins. Our mind often focuses on the negative during our day. Well, celebrate those wins and start focusing on the positive. Your wins can be big or small. Hey, I woke up and I exercise. So write that down, put it in your jar. I listened to this amazing presentation on gratitude today. Write it down and put it in your jar. I had a good conversation with my spouse, put it in your jar. So you kind of get the idea there. Then we all go through rough patches in our life, right? Whether it's professionally or personally. Maybe you just have a down day. Get out that kick-ass jar and take out 3 or 4 of these slips of paper and read them and remind yourself, things aren't that bad. I really have it pretty good. And it'll just retrain your brain to start thinking about the good that you have in your life instead of always focusing on the negative. And the last way to live in more gratitude is through handwritten notes of appreciation. Now, how many of you have received a handwritten note in the mail in the last 30 days? Oh, more than I thought. That's awesome. How many of you have written a note in the last 30 days? A few of you. That's great. You guys are ahead of the game. Maybe we can skip this section, but then we wouldn't be able to write a handwritten note. So handwritten notes, for the most part, have become kind of a lost art, right? Usually we're communicating even our appreciation through text or email, but it feels good to get a handwritten note in the mail, doesn't it? Our mailboxes are full of bills and ads. Well, how do you feel when you go to your mailbox and you have an envelope that's hand addressed to you? You get excited. Who wrote to me? What did they say? And so handwritten notes of appreciation is a great practice to do regularly to live in a gratitude mindset. Now, it's got multiple benefits. Of course, you're going to make the other person feel good, but you're going to feel good when you write the note. I actually did a 21-day thank you note challenge in one of my Facebook groups where I challenged the participants to write a note every day for 21 straight days. And one of the participants said at the end, I think it's been more of a blessing for me than those that have received the notes. Because for 21 straight days, she got to go through the practice of writing positive thoughts to people that were important in her life. And it really made a difference. It really made a difference. So how do you write handwritten notes? I mean, you might not need guidelines, but some people honestly don't know what to say, right? And we're going to practice in just a minute. You can send handwritten notes for anything. Birthdays, holidays, thank you for a gift. One of my favorites is just because. Writing a note to somebody just because. Imagine they're going to be surprised. Hey, it's not my birthday. Why did I get a note? And that can really make them feel good and it make you feel good as well. So really write to connect. How do you do that? Well, here's a template that I got, again, from my friend Yasmin, who I love. He talks about writing really in a way that connects with people. And so you can start off your note by saying, dear first name. I picked Val because she helped me, get to this stage. I remember the time when. So you can start off your note by recalling a memory that you and the recipient shared together. That's going to pull them into a happy experience or a happier time, and that's going to pull you back into a time. What I appreciate most about you. So here, you can talk about a quality that you like about a person. So instead of like, hey, thank you for a gift, what I appreciate most about you is your sense of humor. You always make me laugh. So find a quality that you can appreciate about somebody. And then, this is powerful, if today was your last day and you were never going to talk to them again, what would you want them to know? What would you want them to know? And you can include 1, 2, or all of these things in a handwritten note, and that's a very powerful note that will connect with the person that's important in your life. Let me go back a minute. So what we're going to do now, as you may have seen, you all have a blank card in front of you with a guitar on it. So these cards are special. The design was drawn by a 14-year-old in Guatemala. And if you turn it to the back, you'll see their name, where they live, a little bit about them, and we support Hug It Forward, which is the organization that builds classrooms. So it's a pretty cool card. It's got a Guatemala connection. So I want to get in the practice of helping you write a handwritten note today. And so you can choose anybody that you want. It could be a colleague, a mentor, a coach, family member, a friend, a boss. And I want you to take about 5 minutes and just write anything that comes to your heart and connect with that person and tell them something in that note. This should be a note that you write that you're going to give or mail to that other person. So we'll take about 5 minutes to do this. If you're at a table without an envelope, we have extra. So I think. We'll take about 2 more minutes. We'll run about 30 seconds left. Whose cell phone? Angie? Look at this whole table still writing. You guys have a lot to say. Okay, great. So if you're still writing, that's okay. You can still finish it up. Who's willing to read what you wrote? Who's willing to read what you wrote? All right. You can stand up if you'd like. Yeah.
Those who don't know me, my name is Rick Peters. I also, in addition to my job, I also coach high school football. And in Pennsylvania, I've been doing this for about 30 years. And I wrote a letter, or a thank you card, to the guy who I coached with. And we've been together for about 20 to 22 years. So I said, "Dear Coach Jeff, I will always treasure our many adventures in the gridiron. I've admired you from afar and up close for your passion, commitment, and love for those with whom we coach and collaborate. It's not about the victories or the titles, although there are many of those. I cherish the impact measured by the faces and the return of so many players to our program. We will always walk together."
Awesome. Here's a copy of my book. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right, who else? All right.
Hello everyone, my name is Charleston Carter. I'm the trial coordinator for the 26th District. When I first arrived in North Carolina, Elisa Chingari, Madam Clerk here and Judge of Probate Court, we went to the AOC. And someone said at the AOC, "Charleston Carter, you are the new trial court administrator. I just pray for you." Miss Elisa Chingari, with such force, responded by saying, "You don't have to pray for him. We're going to protect him." I thank her so much for serving as one of the protectors for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's get one more. All right, yes. In the back there? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amanda Leeser, and I'm the trial court administrator here in North Carolina in Guilford County. And I wrote this to my daughter. "Dear Jada, can you read this?"
Is it laughter or tears?
Dear Jada, I am so grateful to be your mom. You smile every day, and I love you more than you will ever know. Love, Mom. What you don't know, she just adopted Jaylee this year.
Oh, wow. Here's a copy of my book. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thanks for being brave. I just love. Yeah, right. Well, you had good intentions. I love the accents, the southern charm. So thank you for writing the cards and reading them, those that read. So to kind of sum up how to cultivate that gratitude mindset, we talked about being specific, why you're grateful, flipping the gratitude switch, so finding the awesome in negative situations, keeping that kick-ass jar handy for the days that aren't so great for you, and then handwritten notes of appreciation. So I would encourage you to pick one of these and start implementing it in your daily practice. So now let's talk about leading with gratitude. So we're going to be talking about professionally what it means to lead with gratitude. Again, it's important to start within first. So now if you're doing gratitude practice yourself, you're feeling good, you're happier, you're more optimistic. What does it mean to lead in gratitude or lead with gratitude? The best way for me to illustrate this is with a personal example. So when I was living in Denver, so I just moved to Knoxville, but I lived in Denver for 9 years. And my favorite coffee shop that I went to for almost the entire 9 years, and I'd hate to add up how much money I spent because coffee's expensive these days, but Fluid Coffee Bar. And Fluid Coffee Bar, they made the best cafe au laits, which is my drink of choice. It's called differently in Starbucks, but that's not why I kept going back. I kept going back because of the people there. And so I just put together a little collage. On the upper left is Jeff. He's the owner of Fluid Coffee Bar. And Jeff and I got to know each other really well. Many coffee shops, you don't know who the owner is. They're not visible. Jeff was there every single day working hard, talking to his customers, getting to know them. And when I launched my book, The Grateful Entrepreneur, he was there to help me promote it, took a picture with me, shared it on social media. On the upper right is me and Colby, who's the manager of Fluid and one of the baristas. Now, in this particular day, my cat Nomar had just had 2 teeth pulled. He was getting 2 teeth pulled right then when I was ordering the coffee. And Colby was like, I know you're probably a little bit anxious, so your coffee is on the house today. She didn't have to do that, but it was just something, a little gesture that made me feel good. On the bottom right is really how I saw Fluid's baristas, right? With smiles. With smiles. It just says sometimes those little things make all the difference in the world. Now on the bottom left isn't me or Fluid, but what show is this? And what did they yell? Norm, right. So it's just by using somebody's name. As easy as it sounds, not everybody does that. And Fluid certainly made me feel like a part of their family. Now, taking the tooth extraction to my cat one step further, when I got to the vet later that day, the office there handed me a certificate of bravery for Nomar, for being a brave boy. And those of you who have dogs or cats, you love your pet, and just this little gesture of giving me a certificate made me feel good. It made me feel a lot better. And so that's really what it means with, as far as leading with gratitude. That's what it means. It means treating your customers like real people, like they matter. It doesn't matter if we are a CEO, a teacher, a kid, a parent, an entrepreneur. We all have some basic human needs. And 3 of them are acknowledgement. We want to be acknowledged. We want a sense of belonging. And we talked about this earlier. We want connection. Those are very important. So think about a time where you interacted with a company and they made you feel like you matter. We can probably all think of times where we interacted with a company and we felt like we didn't matter. I know there's been a handful of times I've sat down at a restaurant, server after server walks by and they don't hand me a menu. They don't say, we'll be right with you. Kind of feel invisible, right? And that doesn't feel good. But flip that. When has there been a time where a company has made you feel like you matter? Just think about it in your head. For me, it goes back to Fluid Coffee Bar. So I showed you those pictures, but in reality, what did they do? They got to know me personally. They knew my name. They knew I wrote a book. They knew I took a trip to Guatemala. They know about my speaking engagements. They know I'm a Virginia basketball fan. They know all these things about me because they took the time to get to know me. Contrast that with one year where I lived in Denver. I moved away from Fluid, and I was like, I don't want to battle that Denver traffic and drive to Fluid. I'm going to find a closer coffee shop. And I went to that other coffee shop about a dozen times, and literally they never asked me my name. They never asked me how I was, what I was doing over the weekend. It was a very transactional relationship. And I stopped going there, and I went back to Fluid, even though they were a lot further away, because I liked feeling like I mattered and like I belonged. What did Fluid do that they did so well? They communicated. Whether we're talking about personal relationships or professional relationships, communication is key. So just think about this, easy example. You have 2 married couples. Married couple A, they talk to each other in a positive manner every single day for 30 straight days. Married couple B, they don't talk at all for 30 straight days. Which couple will have a stronger relationship? It's the one that have talked to each other during that 30-day span. So really, leading with gratitude is putting people first. It's caring about people. It's treating them with kindness. It's doing those little things like smiling. It's getting to know people intimately. And that's how you can lead with gratitude. So 3 companies I want to highlight that are doing this really, really well, and you guys probably know all 3 of these. Southwest, Zappos, and Chewy. So Southwest, they love to say Customer Appreciation Day is every day. We don't need one special day out of the year. They appreciate their customers every single day. There's tons of examples online. One I read about recently, there was a flight delay. Imagine that. Even Southwest has delayed flights, right? And that's one of those times where you get to choose how you're going to interact with people. And the story goes that they hadn't boarded the plane yet, so there was angry passengers still at the gate. And the flight attendant said, I'm going to turn this into a fun situation. It was one of those times where they said, we can't control the delay. We can control how we react and interact with people during the delay. So they had a contest. Who has the worst driver's license picture? So everybody that was frustrated with being delayed now started to have a little bit of fun. And they kind of forgot that, okay, I'm supposed to be angry. And so everybody pulled out their driver's license. They voted on the worst picture, and Southwest gave them a little prize. We've also heard times where flights have been delayed and the passenger's already on the plane. An airline attendant comes on the intercom and starts telling jokes, trying to make people laugh, right? It's just trying to make people feel good. Zappos, also known for their customer service. From the very early days, Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, he decided, I'm going to empower the customer support team to really make decisions on their own. Just treat people with kindness, no matter how it affects our bottom line. That was his mission. And so one of their stories, back from their early days, though, Zappos is headquartered in Las Vegas. So Tony Hsieh, the founder, was out with a few business associates who were in town. And they went out drinking. They came back to the hotel. Tony Hsieh had been bragging about their customer service the whole night. They came back to the hotel at 2 a.m. and they wanted pizza. Well, the hotel restaurant, the kitchen had already closed. So Tony said, call up Zappos and I guarantee they'll help you find pizza. It's kind of weird, right? But one of the business associates did, and they called Zappos' customer service. And they didn't say, hey, I'm here with Tony Hsieh. They just said, hey, can you help us find pizza? We're at this hotel and the kitchen is closed. And because the Zappos customer support rep was empowered to handle a situation where it involves just showing kindness to the other party, they did research and found a place that delivered pizza to the hotel at 2 a.m. That's leading with gratitude. And the third example, Chewy. Chewy is a company that sells pet supplies. A lot of people get their dog food from Chewy. You might not be able to read this, but I'll kind of sum it. This is a friend of mine whose mom's dog had recently passed away. She had ordered her dog food from Chewy. Well, she still had a couple unopened bags of food. She called Chewy and said, hey, my dog just passed away. I've got these bags of food. I'm not going to use them. Chewy said, that's okay. You don't have to return the food. Just donate it to a local shelter. We'll refund you the money of the food that you're not using. And then a couple days later, they sent this person flowers for sympathy and a handwritten note. Because it wasn't saying like, hey, we're going to lose money on the deal if we refund you. It wasn't, we can't afford to send flowers. It's how can we make you feel better? So what can you do to have more kindness and compassion towards your customers? Now, I know you work at the court system, so it's a different industry. You have different types of customers. Suppose you're front and center in front of customers that are, paying their ticket fine, paying speeding tickets. So what can you do there? You're seeing the worst of people. People don't want to be there to pay their traffic violations. But you can do simple things, right? Again, that's the little things that matter. Maybe you make eye contact with them and use a kind tone. You can call them by their name. If they're with kids, you can ask about the kids. You can smile at them or tell a joke. Again, think about the Southwest flight attendants. They like to have fun. You can thank them for paying the ticket. We really appreciate you coming in and paying your fine. Maybe put out a bowl of candy. Just some of these little touches, again, can go a long way. Again, you're interacting with people that probably don't want to be there, so I know you're seeing the worst in a lot of people. But it's, again, how you choose to react. And this is a great quote. The only thing you can really control is how you react to things out of your control. So maybe you have a bad experience with a customer. We probably all have, right? So how do you respond to that? Well, at that point, maybe it's time to think about flipping the gratitude switch and think about, okay, what can I do now to change my mood, change my mindset? You can take out your journal and write down 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for. I said this at the beginning, but I want to reiterate it. Your job, the work that each one of you is doing, really makes a difference in people's lives. You're protecting your community. You're making it a safer place to live. You're making your state a safer place. You're saving lives. And often, we don't remember that, right? Especially in a heated argument with somebody, not an argument, but maybe a confrontation at work. And that's when it's time to maybe go back to your kick-ass jar and like, okay, yeah, the work I'm doing really matters. A final example of a company that I want to highlight is Wufoo. So Wufoo's company is a software company, and every Thursday, the employees come together and they write handwritten notes to their customers. And I love this for 2 reasons. Not only are they showing appreciation to their customers, they're coming together as a team, right? As a workplace, and it serves as a bonding experience. So they're writing notes together, and they're getting to know each other on a more personal level. So it's a time where they can grab pizza and write cards, learn about their team's family members, their hobbies, their interests. I was like, well, how can you do this in your situation? Maybe for those of you that are front and center with customers, you can pre-write cards every single week. Your card maybe, this is just an idea I had, your card maybe on the inside has a typed message, 5 reasons you should follow traffic rules, right? And then you write a note that's kind of funny, like they're paying a speeding ticket. Thank you for your speedy payment. You can come together as a team every week and write cards like this, and then somebody comes in, they pay their speeding ticket, and you give them a card and a piece of candy, you make eye contact, and you smile at them. So that's treating your customers in a more positive, human way versus just like, okay, come in and pay your fine. Leading with gratitude sounds good, but we need to feel appreciated as well, right? That's an important one. No matter how much journaling we do and writing cards, it's hard for us to put our best foot forward if we don't feel valued for the job that we're doing. Many of us might suffer from overwhelm or burnout or just negativity in the office place. So let's talk about that now, because this is going to be important. Appreciation in the workplace. How many of you have heard of or read The 5 Love Languages? It was a great personal development book by Gary Chapman talking about and improving personal relationships between couples. And they found out that there's 5 different languages that you can receive or give love in. And each of us has a primary language that we want to receive love in. Well, it turns out there's a spin-off book that they wrote, Gary Chapman and Dr. Paul White, who I've been able to study under, the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. So we each have a primary language that we want to receive appreciation at work. This is important because 79% of employees quit in part because they don't feel appreciated, and that's high. I'm one of these 79%. I remember my first job, out of school, I was working in Vail, Colorado, and it was my first real job. I had the summer jobs, but I was having my first performance review, 90-day review. And I walked into the office of my supervisor, sat down, and they were across from me. And they had pre-filled out the review form. And I expected to hear, like, here's some good things, we're glad to have you here, here's some room for improvement that we'll work on together. No, he proceeded to list all the things that I could be doing better. And how do you think that made me feel? Do I want to work at a place like that, where I feel like I'm not doing enough, like I'm not good enough, like I'm a failure? I didn't, and that's why I left that job and I became one of these 79%. So just think about for a moment, what if your team felt appreciated, felt recognized, and that led to them being very motivated to contribute to the success? So your entire team, so not just you, what if your entire team felt this way? What would the culture of your workplace look like? So I'm going to briefly talk about these 5 languages. Actually, we're going to talk about 4. So one of them, so the 5 languages of appreciation are the same as the 5 languages of love, just applied differently, applied to the workplace. Now, one of them is physical touch. We don't talk too much about it at work. It's not normally somebody's preferred method of being appreciated, right? If it is, it's usually like a pat on the back or a handshake. But the other 4 really apply. So we have words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and tangible gifts. Let's start with words of affirmation. That's my primary language that I like to feel appreciated in. 46% of the workforce, so almost 50%, like to be appreciated through words. It could be written word, it could be verbal word. The key here is to be specific. So if you just say, Scott, good job, for what? That doesn't really do much for me. If you say, Scott, we love that you come in on time, you smile at our customers, you make us laugh, you're a joy to work with, thank you so much for being here. That's going to make me feel a lot better because it's very specific. I know what I'm doing well. And as a guy that likes to receive words of affirmation, that's going to resonate with me. Quality time is just how it sounds. If you are a person that prefers to be appreciated through quality time, it's just spending time with other people at work. So it could be your boss and you sitting down, and your boss might say, hey, we'd love to get your input. What's working? What needs improvement around here? Whoa, that's going to make you feel valued, right? If a boss is asking for your opinions, or maybe just getting to know you. Hey, would love to know more about your interests, your family life. What do you like to do? Or it could be 2 colleagues going out for lunch, for a ball game. So some people prefer quality time. Acts of service. So these people, don't tell me you value me, show me. So somebody who prefers acts of service, they may have a time-sensitive project. Well, don't say, hey, you got this. No, help them. They want help, direct help, either directly with the project or maybe get them lunch because they're too busy or answer some of their emails for them. Some people prefer acts of service. And then tangible gifts. So some people like to receive gifts. That's their appreciation language. And so it can be small, it doesn't have to be big, but it should be personal. So now here's a good example for you. Can anybody see the socks that I'm wearing? If you can't, no worries. It's a white one, and there's a blue one, and I have a special slide for this. So these socks that I just tried to lift my leg up high enough have pictures of Nomar and Mia on them. So I got a pair of blue socks for Nomar, white socks for Mia. So a friend of mine, Lori, she got me these socks a couple Christmases ago. She got me a pair of blue ones and a pair of white ones, but I like my cats to be together, so I wear one of each. Bonus points if you know who Nomar and Mia are named after. Yep, and then, yes, they're married in real life. So this was a very personal gift. Those of us who are pet owners, It's probably pretty cool. We probably would love to have socks with your pet's face on them. So this is a very personal gift. So what would mean more to somebody in the workplace? A personal gift like this or a Starbucks gift card? It's going to be a personal gift like this. It's very important to realize that each of us has individual ways that we prefer to be appreciated. So it's not just like, hey, I'm going to take everybody out to lunch, or hey, I'm going to give everybody a bonus. That's not going to resonate with the people that like words of affirmation, right? So it takes time to learn people's appreciation language, but it's time well spent. Now, if you just want to get started and then learn people's appreciation language, start with words of affirmation because almost 50% of people prefer words. But why do we do this? Well, think about it. I mean, think of your own personal situation. If you feel appreciated at work, if you feel valued, if you feel acknowledged, you're probably going to be happier, right? When you're happier, suffering less burnout, suffering less overwhelm, you can put your best foot forward. Now you feel better about being able to handle situations and conflicts with customers, complaints, because you feel good. Now you can smile at that customer. Overall boost in workplace morale, employees that want to stick with the organization, which yields an overall cost savings. And I want to bring this up. Don't underestimate the power of outdoor experiences. So what I mean by this is getting yourself out of the workplace. Sometimes when you're in the workplace over and over and over again in front of your computer, even if you're having a meeting and you're in a conference room, sometimes it doesn't stimulate creative juices, right? And foster open dialogue and promote a sense of fun. So taking your group outdoors and doing something fun like an outdoor experience, a hike or whitewater rafting, can help lead to people who feel valued. And so we do this with groups, and I picked this picture out because this is a group we took out whitewater rafting. And Debbie, in the blue on the far left, she may be watching this because I promoted the live stream. So she could be watching. So Debbie, if you are, I'm about to tell on you, not on you, but share this story. She was afraid to get into the raft. She had anxiety. She had that fear of the unknown. She didn't know what to expect. But it took us coming together and kind of helping her through that moment to really allow us to bond as a group. And so sometimes, not only if you go and do a group experience like this, are you stimulating creativity and communication, you're helping somebody overcome a fear, and that could be a very powerful thing to do, helping somebody achieve a breakthrough. And the funny thing about this particular whitewater rafting trip, one person fell out of the raft. Who do you think that was? No? Yes. It was me. And they have a big laugh out of that. So let's wrap up with 3 keys. We talked about gratitude starting within, and we went over 4 ways to start living in more gratitude. I suggest picking one and trying to make that a habit. Leading with gratitude, quite simply putting people first and being kind. And then we talked about appreciation in the workplace, which involves the 5 languages, really 4 in the workplace setting. And again, I want to reiterate, getting to know everybody's specific language that they like to be appreciated, and then helping them feel appreciated in that language. So a couple more slides. One here, I handed out contact cards. So what that is if you would like a digital copy of my book, The Grateful Entrepreneur, as well as I have a toolkit that I can send you over email. It's an Appreciation at Workplace toolkit. It goes over more detail about how to find each person's language, as well as once you know their language, things to do to appreciate them in that language. If you would like this sent to you over email, fill out that card and then just give it to me towards the end or at the end. I also asked for your mail-in address because I do like to send out thank you cards to those that attend my presentation. It's easy to kind of sum this up the golden rule, do to others as you would want done to you, right? Or just be kind. That's really what we're talking about here. And again, I learned a lot of this. I mean, you shouldn't have to go to a third world country to learn about kindness and gratitude. But on the very last day, and I'll get up here on stage for this, but on the very last day that I was volunteering, a little girl came up to me, a little girl from the community, and she ran up to me. I knelt down. She gave me this big hug, warm hug. I felt a lot of warmth and kindness, and I wanted to know for her what she was grateful for. So I asked her, and she said, I am so thankful for our new classroom. I'm thankful for all the volunteers, and I'm thankful for you. And that was really, the whole experience was a defining moment for me where I knew, hey, I want to start living in more gratitude. This feels good. I want to teach about living in more gratitude and leading with gratitude. And whether you're talking about living in gratitude personally with some of those suggestions or leading with gratitude professionally, you're going to have a better life when there's more gratitude in it. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention here today. Here's my contact information. I would love to be a resource for you, so you can feel free to take a picture, write that down, and contact me anytime you'd like.